Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. I'm your host, Ted Phaeton. So glad you're joining us for this episode. We have a good one. Allow me to introduce a very special guest, Stephen and Summer Gossett. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, Ted.
Yes, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I just want to kind of run down your resume really quick, let people know who you are. I'm going to let you finish the details of the story, but I have No Valley Wedding Photography, My Wedding Group, Famzing Photography from Michigan and Idaho, but currently residing in Greenville, South Carolina, correct?
That's absolutely correct, and it's Nova Lee.
Nova Lee.
It's okay. Actually, in the back of our business cards, I actually have the phonetical way to actually say it. It's funny. Everyone misses pronouncing it. So.
Yeah. I'm going to have to put a little... is there an accent on one of the letters?
No. We're not that fancy, Ted. We're not that fancy.
I had to ask. Well, talk about, I guess, the story of where you guys are from and how you two met.
Well, yeah, that's a long story, but we actually met in California. So we 13 years ago, we were at a conference and met each other and dated long distance for about 3.5 years. So before we finally decided to even get in the same state. So
okay. Well, first question was, what kind of conference was it?
It was actually a photography conference. So Summer and I did not come out of the gate as wedding photographers. We are actually photographies in other fields, as well as holding down big boy corporate jobs. And we both wanted to get into weddings, and we both needed to extend that training to be a better wedding photographer. And so it was actually a photography conference that was focused primarily on weddings.
Nice. So you guys had that in common. You met at the conference and you started the relationship. I have to ask about the challenges of a long distance relationship, because I know a lot of folks hear that 3+ years long distance. That's first and foremost, congratulations, because that's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like even back then, especially, it was more challenging to be in that long distance relationship because we really didn't have the technology that we have today. So we didn't have like instant messaging or anything like that. We were literally emailing, talking on the phone, and we did text, but it was back when it was like 111, 222. You remember those days? So that's kind of where we were at with all of that. So even to this day, we hate talking on the phone to each other because it's just with the struggles real with the long distance, but we did get to know each other a lot better, and became best of friends, I think. So it was helpful in that realm.
I'd like to ask too, because me and my girlfriend, we spent the first 2.5 years long distance, and we kind of look at that time as a blessing because it kind of forced us to have real conversations and cherish the time that we had together, the little time that we had together. It became that much more special, and it kind of pushed the relationship forward. What would you say is some of the benefits that you guys experienced having a long distance relationship?
We actually talked about this yesterday with some friends, and because you don't have that physical relationship most of the time, you're really having to focus in on learning more about each other, and when you have those phone conversations, it isn't just the same old. And honestly, you get to, like Summer said, like we became best friends, we would literally have date nights where we would go to the same movie and they would be off by a couple minutes, and, we'd start them at the same time. We'd be on the phone while we're eating dinner before the movie, so we could have like virtual dates. I would actually buy books that I was interested in reading.
Yeah.
And I would actually ship her one, and then we would actually read chapters back and forth to each other and things like that. And I think that is probably what makes the fact that I'm literally with her 24/7. We work together, we live together, we play together, we travel together. And I think because we had that really amazing base to our relationship, it allows us to actually work together and have all that time together without wanting to kill each other. I mean, she probably wants to kill me most of the time, but for the sake of this being recorded,
Yeah, which are all things I'd love to unpack a little bit further in the episode, kind of running a business together as a married couple and the challenges that come with that. But I just want to make sure that the viewers are picking up on the fact that all the things you're doing, the virtual dates, the seeing the movies together and reading books together, that's before the time of FaceTime, right?
Right, correct. There was no, like, their webcams had just come out at the end of our relationship, our long distance relationship. So we did have like maybe 6 months where we could like webcam to each other. But it would always freeze up. The internet was terrible back then as well. So, we would be literally talking and then he's just frozen there. And I'm like, okay, we'll just talk on the phone instead. So yeah, I mean, just not having the technology that we have today, we really had to like, it's surprising that it lasted, but it was great. So.
Well, I love that it did, and I guess after the 3.5 years, right?
3.5, yeah.
After 3.5 years, what was the next step in the relationship, and how did the wedding photography business come about?
Well, so his parents retired here to Greenville, and he came to visit them and just absolutely fell in love with it. So he actually asked me to come out for Thanksgiving, and see his family and all that kind of stuff. And then I fell in love with it, and so that was really just the next step for us. Is that we knew eventually we wanted to wind up together somewhere, but he hated Minnesota because it was so cold. Because I eventually had moved to Minnesota, so. And it was so cold there. And then, we were just trying to figure it out. So when we came here, we just fell in love with Greenville. And so that was the next logical step for us to get together here.
Yeah.
So.
Now, at this time, because you'd mentioned both having the passion for photography, both still holding down a corporate job, was photography the full-time gig at this time where you're contemplating the move, or is that still a side hustle?
Yeah, so it was still a side hustle. We both did a lot of consulting. And so, Summer's actually a black belt in Six Sigma, and nice. Which a lot of people are like, whoa, that's crazy. You're photographers, which kind of blends into the success of our brands. And so we knew we wanted to make it a full-time gig. We just, honestly just didn't really, we weren't ready for that next step yet because, and anybody who has made that leap, they come to us and they ask you, and a good friend told me a long time ago, he said, when you're losing money with your day job, it's time you don't have a day job anymore. And that's kind of, when we took that leap, which was about 3 years into having Famzing.
Okay. So you took the leap. What was kind of the deciding factor? What was the moment like when you're like, hey, here we go. We're kind of cutting the string to the parachute, if you would.
It was scary as hell. But I mean, when we made the decision though, we made it. Like I remember, going into the company that I was consulting with and letting them know I was gone after a set date. I gave them a month notice. And I remember that last day, I wasn't sitting there freaking out. I just was like, I knew it was right. Like I knew that I was about to start the hardest job of my life because I didn't, if it failed, we failed, and we would have no money and we'd be broke and poor. So
yeah. So at this time, this is in Greenville that this is happening, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you're taking this leap together.
Yes.
What was the conversation like where it's like, here we go, baby?
Well, at that time, I'm like such a spreadsheet person that I had like pros and cons lists going on and all that kind of stuff. I probably drove him absolutely nuts, I'm sure, with all the different like scenarios that I had. But I guess when we decided to take the leap, it was just a matter of, I'm sure I ran like a huge bunch of numbers to see if we could make it work and all that kind of stuff. But we just would talk about it. I mean, we talked and we said, and he made the leap first and then I followed. So it took me a couple more years to make the leap myself. But I just, I was so ingrained in what I was doing corporate wise that I didn't want to let it go for a while. Yeah. And so I think it was just a candid conversation where he was like, you know what, you can't spread yourself so thin all the time. Like you need to, eventually let it go and let's just continue to take that energy and build it into our brands and our business.
Yeah. So. Anyone who's kind of gone out on their own and started something new, they know it's not easy. Stephen, as you mentioned, getting ready to start the hardest job of your lives. What are some of the challenges you guys came across building this from its inception really to really what it's become today?
Famzing did not start out as the company it is today. And I guess the first hurdle was when you, especially in the wedding and events world, although there's so many of us in the industry, in the wedding side, from planners to cake bakers to venues, it's surprisingly still a very small community. And what we found was there was people that accepted us with open arms and said, whatever I can do to help you. And then there was others that are like, sorry, no vacancy, we don't want you here. We don't want, you're from the north. We don't want you here. We don't like your world. We don't like your story, And so, and that was really, really tough. And honestly, that because of that and how Famzing changed into the company it is today, because Famzing was originally supposed to be our husband and wife team. And after about 6 months, we actually completely changed the entire business model of Famzing because of the hardships that we were being put in front of, and we were seeing other photographers going through this. And so we kind of looked at Famzing as an opportunity to help couples who do not have a huge wedding budget for photography to still have great photography. But on the flip side of that, we were meeting these amazing artists, these amazing individuals that had a passion for wedding photography, but they would quit after a year because it wasn't the photography that was killing them, it was the business that was killing them. And if you are an artist in any sort of field, when somebody doesn't like what you do, especially a client, it can emotionally mess with you, and you just want to kind of walk away from it. So we wanted to give those photographers an opportunity to be successful, and so we converted Famzing into Famzing Studios so that we could bring in these photographers who wanted to be better wedding photographers, and B, we took all the business stuff away from them. We just let them do what they do best, and that's photography. They don't even have to edit their own work. And we didn't think it would work. The idea would work because, typically when we sit down with a client, they're like, well, do I get to meet my photographer? And the answer is no, you don't. Well, you will on the day of your wedding.
Yeah.
And we didn't know if that concept would work, but 10 years later, Famzing Studios is the highest rated studio in South Carolina. There's no studio that has more 5-star reviews than ours. Yeah.
I love it. Well, congratulations. And I see Summer smiling the whole time because when you mentioned the spreadsheets, I picture you as a planner. And so when Steven says we had to change the business model and all that, how do you adjust the plan? How do you call the audible while you're building this thing?
Yeah, so we still are always changing and kind of reevaluating the business model all the time. And so I am definitely the planner, and I do all the scheduling for Famzing and all that kind of stuff. So anytime we talk about like making a change, I relook at the whole entire plan just to see, is it still gonna work? Is it still gonna function? How can we be innovative even going forward, even and change to be relevant, but can we still make the inner workings of Famzing work, the way it does? Because that piece alone, the scheduling piece of it, and just working with all of these different photographers is, it's instrumental in making the whole thing work and being able to juggle, I guess, 8 weddings in a day and that kind of thing. So
it's a lot, I'm sure.
It's a lot. So, yeah.
And it's wonderful to have the ability and the capabilities of adjusting and adapting, especially in the business world. And I'm sure, especially in the wedding business world, you have to be able to kind of roll with the flow and roll with the punches, because I'm sure they come from everywhere. And also having the awareness, anyone who is an artist that's listening, they probably know the struggle and really how daunting it can be, because when someone doesn't like your work, you do take it personally. And when that's repeated over time, it can beat somebody down. The best and strongest of us will get beaten down if our work is continued to be rejected. So thank you guys, first and foremost, for allowing these artists to have an avenue to express themselves and grow and continue to, I guess, work on their craft. In the fact that you've built Famzing into what it is today, and you continue to take on these ventures and doing pretty well at it from what I can tell, how important is it for your skills to kind of complement each other?
It's so important. Like, that's the only way that it works, is that, we always kind of joke around a little bit. He's always been like the crazy creative person, and I've always been kind of more the analytical planner person. And over the years, we've really bled into each other. So now I'm becoming more creative, on my own and in my own right. And he's becoming more, I guess, structured. And so, yeah. And so now it's like the perfect balance between us, which is awesome. And that's completely what makes Famzing work. I don't feel like if we were both creative or both analytical, it would work the way it does today. I don't know if you agree, Stephen.
Yeah, so completely actually, which I'm supposed to because she's my wife, so I'm supposed to say whatever she says is right. Absolutely. I would drive her bonkers in the very beginning because I think after year one I wanted to change the logo and I wanted to move this and change that, and so she's constantly slapping my wrist and saying no, stop. And it's kind of like for even the people out there that are still looking for that right person, and I found the person who is probably the most opposite of me, because if we all like the same things, we wouldn't really have a lot to talk about, and so, but like she said, even from the business side, we bled into each other. And then even from the creative side, our work started to actually favor each other's. I was more the photojournalistic photographer. She was more the structured pose them photographer. And now it's kind of like, our roles have kind of flipped. And that's kind of where, Novalee was born, as an expression of us being a husband and wife team versus being, a group of photographers. So.
Awesome. I do want to touch on the resume, Novalee, Famzing, and then My Wedding Group. Talk a little bit about My Wedding Group and how that came about.
Absolutely. So My Wedding Group actually, much like anything that we start out with, it changes and evolves over time. My Wedding Group actually was really our gift back to the community. So we have close to 80 members. So people in the wedding community that are part of My Wedding Group. It was originally meant to be our way to give back. We didn't want to make any money off of it, and it still today does not make a profit. It's more about a place where we can help businesses grow. Like technically, we are labeled an incubator business by the county of Greenville.
Wow, okay.
Because of the fact that when we first came to South Carolina, we were not greeted nicely by everyone.
Yeah.
And we were seeing other individuals that were going, hey, I want to get in the wedding world. I want to live my dream. I want to own my own business and be successful in the wedding and event world. But I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to go, what networking. And so what we did was we crafted My Wedding Group to be an opportunity for those people who, A, were brand new business and needed help. So we do monthly educational events. We do a lot of one-on-ones with people who are struggling. Matthew Pouts, if you don't know who he is, he's probably one of the most talented photographers in Greenville right now. And he came to us and he was like, the business stuff. It's the business stuff that's killing me. And, we worked extensively to help him. And, because his talent was too good to not, have the world see what he does, And so it's an opportunity for us to give back to those people who are struggling to have their dreams. On the flip side of that, people who have been in the industry for a long time, it's an opportunity for them to be part of the group because bride and grooms, when they first get engaged, they have no idea what to do. We do wedding shows and they're great. But then I see the overwhelming look on their face when they're walking into a room with so many vendors and there's so many people talking and, you're just overstimulated, and so we were like, man, where do these couples go? I mean, you've got wedding wire, you've got the knot, you've got things like that, but where do these couples go where they can get that one-on-one, opportunity to just go, how can I find good vendors that I know are good vendors that are 5-star rated and not be completely overwhelmed with the process? And that's where My Wedding Group has then involved into helping, couples that are looking for a place to, come and kind of not necessarily plan their wedding because we have planners, but it's a way for them to at least take all the craziness that is wedding planning and kind of siphon it down,
Because, it could be really convoluted. It's a lot to take in. How do you kind of take a newly engaged couple and walk them through the process and the possibilities of what's likely going to be the probably most exciting, most exhilarating day of their lives.
Yeah, so the way we designed my wedding group was really for couples to come in over and over and over again so that they don't get overwhelmed by the whole process. I always tell people, like, you don't have to bite the whole elephant. We can just kind of handle it a little step at a time. And so the first place to start obviously is the venue. So our office manager kind of helps them with the style of venue that they want. Some people want a barn, some people want brick and rustic, some people want something more modern, and we have all of those things. Some people want a hotel because they have out of town guests, and we have all of these things. So we kind of start there, and then once they've booked their venue, we have basically a timeline that we walk them through of, okay, now it's time to go get a planner maybe, or your photographer if you're thinking that you're going to do the planning on your own, that kind of thing. So it's really meant for them to come back over and over and over again and not really feel overwhelmed by the process. And that's where we feel like we can help with that. So
and I'm sure that's very helpful to a lot of couples. And there's probably some couples listening right now like, baby, we need that.
Yes.
Because all the Pinterest boards, the magazines, the websites, it gets hard to kind of organize it. And also in the internet age that we live in, it's also hard to verify your sources and where you're getting that information from.
Absolutely.
So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yes.
I do want to I want to move forward into talking about some of the challenges in terms of running these businesses as a married couple, in case someone's listening and they're looking to get into a venture with their significant other. What are some of the tips that you would give folks, or what are some of the disclaimers and the cautions you throw out there before they jump in head first? How has it worked for you guys?
I'm going to let Steven answer this one.
Just do whatever she says. No. Honestly, work is work. Personal is personal. So in our lives, okay, so on a wedding day, we have to be uber creative, and so, we make a rule that, no paperwork, no taxes, nothing that makes the one side of the brain, that we don't want to work with, leave that one alone, so left side, you shut up. I don't want to be analytical today. I got to be a photographer today. So I'm not a business owner today. I'm actually here for the couple, and focusing on them. So, and so when you're there at a wedding and it's a live event and, things sometimes aren't going to plan, we all have those times where you bicker at each other and you look at each other, where you're short, when you shouldn't be, and things like that. And we have a rule, and what happens at the wedding stays at the wedding, So even if I'm short at her or she's short at me, or we don't agree on a necessarily our same vision of a photo, and things like that. We leave it at the wedding. So like the second we walk out the door, whatever happened is done. And we always make it a point to sit down, have a drink together after the wedding and just talk about other things, because, in the moment it's kind of hard. The other piece is you have to be supportive. I mean, a ridiculous amount of support for each other and understand where the other person is. And especially for us, if she's in the bridal suite and she has an over opinionated mom, that's just in her ear, I watch her when she walks out and I watch her body language and I'm like, okay, I'm going to then step in and be the stronger figure. Or if I have a groom who might not be that big into pictures and he hates the whole entire process, she sees me and she's like, okay, I'm going to need to lift you up as well throughout this day to get through it. Day to day in the business, it's not just listening, it's hearing. So when she has an idea or I have an idea, it's not, oh, okay, great. Yeah. It's, all right, I'm really going to hear you. I'm really going to listen to you. And that's something that I personally had to improve upon when, cause she would talk to me and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what did I just say? And I'm like, crap. So it's being supportive and it's taking time to still be married, because when you fight, it's usually about the business. It's about money. 99% of any couple fights, it's about money. And so it's like, are we making the sales that we should, or did my videographer drop a $4,000 camera and break at the wedding? And how are we going to pay for that? And all that kind of stuff. But it's also remembering to take time to be with each other. So when we have pretty much date night every night because we're in Greenville doing consults and things like that. But then we make it a point to just go out and have some time just for us. Or, like I said, we're going on a cruise and, in a week, it's that time to us to reconnect, and not have we're still always business owners. And so there is never really a time where it turns off. And people talk about work-life balance and all those cute phrases. And at the end of the day, you're as busy as you want to be, and so we like to be busy, but we also always strive to take time to still remember that we're married first and we're business owners second.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
You want to add to that?
I'm trying to think. Well, respect, obviously. He kind of talked about supporting one another, but I think you just have to respect each other every day, and you have to, you have to work at it like any other marriage. You have to work at those things. And so, yeah, it's important. And we, like he said, we're as busy as we want to be. I think we might have a problem. We're workaholics. So, so we do have that like in common, which is good. What's nice about that is that it's a balance with each other. We're on the same page about it. It's not like some married couples where like maybe he's a workaholic and then she's like, why are you working all the time? And then it goes back and forth, or vice versa. We are both workaholics. We work hard and we play hard, and we're on the same page about it. So
hey, and that's the way to go. Make sure you're on the same page. I love how, just listening to your story, just how intuitive you both are, not just with each other, but kind of with the business that you're in, and kind of really you have a skill set for picking up where the gap is and where there's a service needed. So I want to ask, like, why the wedding business? What first gravitated you towards the wedding business?
I've actually been in the wedding business for about 25 years, maybe even almost 30, but I'm starting to date myself now. So, so I've been in the printing world, in the wedding business for all that time. So, I already had knowledge about where we could maybe help, especially with our photography skills, because we were both doing that as well. So, I think we both went through a period where we were trying to do family portraits and pet photography and all these other types of photography. And really, at the end of the day, a wedding photographer does all that. And sometimes it's just happening on a day because people will bring their fur babies, or they'll bring, kids, obviously. So we kind of have to know how to deal with kids. And then we are product photographers because we are shooting all the details of the wedding. And so we were trying to do all of that and market all of that. And we just kind of said, you know what if we take those skills that we have and we just focus it into weddings specifically. So that's kind of where we took it. And I already kind of had knowledge from my previous life in the wedding business of knowing that it can work and that couples will buy it. It's not something that's going to die over time. They'll continue to buy wedding photographers for sure.
Add to that, one thing that Summer, you asked why weddings, and we actually tell this story to our clients when they meet with us. For me, I did my very first wedding, and because back when we first did weddings, it was still film, so it wasn't like the Christmas camera photographers that are where there's thousands of them out there today. It's so it was a skill set you had. I did it for a friend, and I was hooked because Summer actually says it. There is very little jobs where you get to meet so many people on the happiest, most important day of their life, and share that with them.
Yeah.
And through that, like she said, she was in the printing world. I also was in the printing world as well. I can't tell you half the clients that I helped over the years. I don't remember them, but I'm Facebook friends with hundreds of people that we've shot their weddings for, because you have that connection. You have that connection with somebody on that day, and they're nervous and they're scared, and you're their person. Until they're able to see their actual person, which is going to be their spouse. You're their person, and it means the world to us to be able to, share that day with them.
Yeah. It's amazing you shared that story, because once you mentioned that reminded me of my days way back in the day. I used to MC weddings here and there. I've done sweet 16s and weddings. And I remember this one wedding where it was at the reception. The father of the bride came up to me after I introduced the whole groom's party, the bride's party. He says, "Do you drink?" And I said, "I do on occasion." And he looks at me, he goes, "My daughter just got married. This is an occasion. Come with me to the bar." And then I did a drink with the father of the groom, and then I did a drink with the bride and the groom. And then by the end of the night, they're calling me out onto the dance floor to dance with them. And they were just such a great energy, and we had just so much fun. And I know they probably have me in their pictures and things like that. If they're listening to this podcast, I had a great time. I'd love to come back for the anniversary party. But to your point, it's a special day. And just the fact that they were open arms, inviting not just me, but the photographers, the videographers, to celebrate that with them, it must feel special to kind of be pulled in on that over and over again.
Yeah, we had we had a wedding 4 years ago. Yeah, we know the same story. Cool. Okay, we're on the same page. It was a lesbian couple, and so we had the honor of shooting not only one of the very first weddings when the state law was passed, but also one of the first same-sex weddings. Actually, we shot a wedding the day the national. It was a same-sex couple the day the national law was passed, and and same-sex weddings are something really close to us because when you talk about the wedding day, it's something everyone should have, period. End of story, done. And this couple, they had been together for 15 years, and they were going to a church. They had a child together, and I guess nobody put two and two together. And so they decided to get married, and they sent their invitations out, and they sent out, when the one girl talked about the fact that she was getting married, she wasn't very specific. Well, then she had a guest count of 200 people. Okay. When the invitations went out, they realized that she was a lesbian and that it was going to be a same-sex wedding. 10 people showed up to that wedding.
Oh, wow.
And we were there, and a good friend of ours, Justin Reed from Uptown, he was doing the DJing for that. And they actually, we shot the day, they were really upset, but we were like, we're here for you. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're going to, amazing couple. As we were going, we finished up their photos, we were going into the reception to start their first dances. The coordinator comes up and says, by the way, the brides have requested that you eat at their table with them. And so she invited all the vendors because she was like, it means so much to me that you supported what we're doing here and you're here for us. And literally and at the end of the night, they opted to not do a grand exit because they wanted us to then put our gear away and celebrate with them. And so we danced with them for 2 hours into the night. It was amazing.
Yeah, and they had even had place cards at the table for us that had our names on them. It was so incredible. It was to this day, we talk about it almost once a month because it was just so incredible, and we were just so honored to be a part of that for them. So
Summer, Stephen, it's definitely more than just a business for both of you. I could tell it's really a purpose and a calling. What's next for you two? What's the rainbows that you're currently chasing?
Well, we have currently developed a tool for photographers to help them with posing. And so that is what we're in the works on right now is to market that tool out to photographers, because really we found it with Famzing. I always say, and this is one of the reasons why we started my wedding group too, but I always say, imagine working in a different office space every day with a different team. Yeah. That is what happens with our photographers. And sometimes we have really good teams and sometimes we have subpar teams. And what happens is, or maybe emotional families or there's a bridesmaid that's over opinionated, or there's just a lot of things that go on. But what happens is we wind up then, if that all gets in our head, when we get out to do formals with either the wedding party or the couple, we can start to have a blank mind on what to do and which poses, and we'll start to do the same exact pose over and over and over again in different backgrounds. And so he and I kind of talked about it, and we said, what can we do to help our own photographers? And so we came up with this system called posing cards, and it basically is a card that has a pose, and then it talks about body types that it works for, because sometimes different body types the pose won't work, and then it talks about what you can say to your couple to get them to engage with that pose, so you can get emotion out of it, or you can get maybe a laugh or something really sweet. So we have these techniques that are on these cards, and so we were passing it out to our Famzingers to take in on the wedding day, and we were noticing that their poses were really, they were up in their game with it. So it was awesome. And so we were like, okay, we just have to mass produce this and sell it so that it's not just limited to Famzing, but anybody could have access to be a better photographer. So that's kind of our next step.
Kind of like selling the playbook, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're also getting involved with a lot of national speaking tours and things like that to, not only help other photographers, in their endeavors, just like we were helped at that conference we met at all those years ago, and that's because we feel like we're at a place in our career where, I think we're going to photograph as long as we possibly can, that we physically can do it. But I think, but we also want to start to share, and educate others, and, really help them kind of, achieve what they want to, achieve and help them out and still be a part of that photography community as well as the wedding community.
Yeah. And I love it. It's like each one teach one, each one reach one. And it sounds like as you continue to up your game and you learn the lay of the land, you write the playbook, you write the roadmap, and you just reach back and hand it to others. So I want to thank you guys for that. Where can any photographers, newly engaged couples, anyone that's listening that would benefit from reaching out to you, can they find you guys?
So the first place to go is My Wedding Group. So it's myweddinggroup.com. We also have a wedding showroom, which is on 743 Congreve Road in Greenville. It's where the old Scatel's Plaza used to be. I think we have a Steinway's piano coming in now next to us.
Nice.
And that's step one. And you can find us there. You can also find pretty much all of the other amazing vendors that can really help, not just weddings, but events. We have a lot of corporate people that actually utilize the resources at My Wedding Group because they're planning galas and balls and fundraisers and charities and all that kind of stuff. And those kind of things can all be done via My Wedding Group as well.
Yeah, which I've been to the Iron Cater event, and that is delicious.
And you'll be back
event.
this year. You're going to be hosted again.
Yeah, just a little preview for everybody. Keep an eye out for when that's going to be dropping. August 8th?
August 7th. It's August 7th.
It's the Thursday.
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, I will put it in the show notes because you guys certainly won't want to miss that. Summer, Stephen, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure a lot of folks benefited from it, and I'm excited to see your continued success in the future. So thank you once again for sharing.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate you having us.
Yes, thank you, Ted.
All right, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode. Once again, make sure you reach out to Stephen and Summer. I'm pretty sure they can help you out with whatever endeavor you're looking to encounter, whether it be just event planning or embarking on your wedding. They're the ones to kind of guide you through that process. Go out there and be great. Everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without a little pain. Let's grow.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.